Well, Sony has another state of play in mind, and this time centered around the Demon Souls remake. Makes sense because it is coming out in less than a week.
Oh
By
my
the time
god,
we'll be
state of
recording this.
plays, those still exist.
The absolute state of play.
How long has it been since the last state of play? Seriously.
I actually haven't seen this one yet, so I don't know what they're gonna show. But the previous two trailers were promising enough. I'll mention more in the later final thoughts part.
It's basically a newcomer's, here's the basic gist of it type of state of play too.
So, from what I understand, Demon Souls was kind of like the precursor to Dark Souls.
Pretty much. It was the first game in a long while where From Software decided to just elevate itself a bit.
The
But
first
back
Dark
when
Souls was actually originally named Demon Souls 2 during development, but they later had to...
it kind of happened again with Bloodborne, which was supposed to be an actual sequel to Demon Souls, but was changed mid development.
Yeah.
So, I'm guessing there's a big cult following behind Demon Souls that's wanted to see
Yes,
the game
actually.
done proper justice.
Not just that, Joe, but after after the first Dark Souls exploded in popularity, people went back and played the original PS3 classic and found out of it as well. So nowadays it's regarded as a PlayStation classic.
So what separates Demon Souls from Dark Souls? Like, from what I understand, Demon Souls shares a lot in common with Dark Souls. The whole
Pretty much. Well, it's a bit more complex because it had other stuff like a separate magic meter for stuff, and for example, different types of healing items which have a weight system of their own. It is quite different, but roughly the same at the same time, or if that makes any sense.
So basically, it's like to the point where you could almost consider Demon Souls like a spin-off
Oh, great,
of...
Boletarian Palace.
And I guess...
Basically, the interesting way is that Demon Souls is structured kind of it's weird because he had the Nexus, which is the central stage, and then you have the levels that are named kind of like of a Mario game. You have like level 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, and 1, 4, for example, and so on.
Now,
It's centered around basically the checkpoints, which were what later
We're
Dark
also
Souls will use
seeing-
for the bonfire.
We're also seeing something cool that Gavin Moore, the creative director, confirmed recently on an interview. Up until this point, this game has always been demoed with the new modern camera that Bluepoint made, where it's a bit more typical of modern games. However, there is an option to trigger the original camera system that the original game had, which, as you can see, is a bit further away from the character.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna use it, mostly because I'm more used to this kind of visual for a Dark Souls experience.
Yes,
Yeah.
Kaiser?
So those of you who are used more to the classic camera, you can slot it in the options.
Much like with the Shadow of the Colossus, also they confirmed the different types of filter, which among those is the one that recreates the more bloomy, browny effect that the original game had.
So those of you who want the game to look more...
At least more similar.
to tone down the colors and make it more darker in tone color-wise, you can do that in the filters again, just like you could in Shadow.
That's because, Joe, in case you don't know, this remake is kind of has always made the rounds around the internet ever since its announcement, in terms of how much Bluepoint has changed, in terms of are we potentially adding too much, are we making things over-detailed, stuff like that. I'm of two minds. On one hand, I can understand potential worries. And to be fair, Bluepoint also listened to some of the complaints, like for example the Flame Lurker's face, which was very different in the first trailer, but then they actually bothered to, change it to resemble a bit more the original. So that's cool. But on one hand, I'm willing to understand people's concern. On the other, I'm confident enough that the game will at least play, just the same. And the only thing majorly different will be just how it will look.
Gavin confirmed in a recent interview with Game Informer that they did the exact same method they did with the Shadow Colossus remake, where they used the base code of the original PS3 disc as a base. So
they also mentioned a couple of things about, for example, not changing difficulty, which thank you, because all those gaming journalists that said something like Sekiro needs a easy mode, please.
One major difference, however, is the soundtrack. Whereas the soundtrack is much more inclined to the actual spiritual successor, Bloodborne, rather than the it's definitely much more
bombastic.
It's much more akin to the games that Miyazaki made after Demon Souls, rather than because the original Demon Souls soundtrack was produced with a low budget, and as a result, it was more ambient compared to what the games that came after. So my guess, Theo, I don't know how you feel about this. My guess is they're probably doing what the original probably may have done if they had a bigger budget with the original game.
Potential, but on another, I can understand. Oh shit! Yeah, there you go.
Oh snap! A trap boulder ball.
But get used to that, Joe. Oh, the Flame Lurker boss fight in Stonefang Tunnel. But on another, that's kind of ironically what made it stand out, because compared to the successful successor Souls games, the soundtrack of Demon Souls is definitely quite different. Like Pedro said, more ambient. The ideal option would have been basically just do the Spyro Reignited trilogy and allow the players to switch between the two. But I get the suspicion, I get the idea that they're probably just gonna stick with the remixes.
Fun fact: the soundtrack for this remake was recorded in London in the same place and with the same organ that was used to record music for Bloodborne and Interstellar.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
Well, the London Philharmonic Orchestra gets used a lot by gaming companies these days. Square Enix tends to use it a lot more recently.
Even more than the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra.
It's actually apparently there's a better reputation, Joe. It's just a better acoustic, better people playing it, and so on.
Yeah,
the Tokyo Philharmonic is more used by Japanese developers.
Well,
like I said, Pedro, Square Enix has used it a lot. We use it for the Kingdom Hearts re-releases and free. The CDNT. Oh,
the point.
Yeah, that's why I said Japanese developers.
Well, the point, Pedro, is that even Japanese developers are sort of shifting more towards the London Philharmonic Orchestra. That was my point.
Yeah, and that's what I said. I wasn't referring to the Tokyo one.
Sure. Well, yeah, Sonic Forces used the London Symphony.
But like Tio said, the London Philharmonic Orchestra, they might have some better acoustics overall. So I guess it kind of makes sense.
Not to mention London is an organ. So.
Oh snap!
Yeah.
You can literally attack statues that come to life.
Well, the Tower of Latra has lore reasons for having that. But beware of the jailers, because they can actually paralyze you and potentially also they inflict damage just by looking at you.
I'm actually
boy.
I understand those worries, but at the same time, I'm personally quite keen on this because I've never been that big of a fan of the style that Demon Souls had. I personally felt that the ambient. Wait, I understand the ambient argument, but personally, I never really felt like it was to a point where to me it was a bit too ambient for my taste. But whereas I much preferred what Sakuraba brought to the table with Dark Souls 1.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Okay, if there's one particular design, at least so far, I'm not really too keen on, is the skeletal ones. It is the more drastically different one, and I get the idea why they did it, because if you don't know, Miyazaki is, has always been, a huge fan of a manga, Berserk. And his games always take a huge inspiration from that. The skeletons in the original Demon Souls looked very much more metallic, which resembled in terms of Armora character from Berserk, but here instead they combined the metal with an actual more skeletal appearance with muscle tissues to make them look like actual undead. So on that end I can understand the redesign, it's just that it feels like something has been lost in the passage.
I do get what you mean, a metallic skeleton does sound like something that's cool.
Let me give you a pick in the meantime. But yeah, also the cool thing about the Demon Souls is that
my god, this looks so much better.
The thing about the Dark Demon Souls is that thanks to the not immediately connected levels, they allow themselves to provide a different set of levels that they want. Stonefang Tunnel is by all intents and purposes the fire dungeon. The Valley of Defilement is the poison dungeon, and so on.
Yeah.
People
For the
suspected
record-
that the sixth Archstone, the Land of the Giants, was supposed to be the ice dungeon, but we'll never know.
So Pedro,
The PS3 original, in the PS3 original, this area was known for having quite performance issues.
Much like Blighttown in the first Dark Souls, the Poison Dungeon was infamous for being super hard to go through and, having performance issues up the wazoo.
ouch.
So, but Bluepoint took care of that. You can pick between a native 4K 30 FPS or a dynamic 4K with 60 FPS, bringing a new level of precision with performance that was never possible in the original. Yes, Jova?
I was actually going to ask you for context on why this apparently is so much better, but you just answered that.
And now the Dirty Colossus. Basically, for those who don't know, aside from being a fan of that manga that Theo mentioned, Miyazaki's a big fan of Fumito Ueda's games. In fact, Ico was the game that apparently made him want to become a game designer.
Really?
Yes. And you can see, well, Giovanni, look at it this way: Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh yeah, I
second
definitely
wave,
see it.
and Souls games are known for their gigantic bosses. So yeah, there you go. And this is, look at that, a Dirty Colossus. See, this game has a Colossus.
This is the dungeon. This is the Poison Dungeon. This is literally constructed where it's kind of made of flies and garbage. Yeah, there you go. One of its effects is it's literally covering you in flies.
That's why the storytelling in his games are always environmental. Except for Sekiro. Sekiro is a bit more cinematic in comparison. But the Soul series and Bloodborne tends to be more environmental in its storytelling as a direct inspiration from Shadow of the Colossus.
I like how this also has the "you died" thing, just like Dark Souls.
It was actually the same thing.
It was actually originated here.
They changed for this remake. They changed a bit how it presented. It just like that. I mean, it's more of a thing about the remake is presented. I'm not really used to see a Soulsborne, as we're called, games run this fluidly, because one part of the quote-unquote experience that Wibs and Shiri can attest since they've been with me so far is the fact that they run kind of clunky, and it's also part of the charm. This one is the first which feels very fluid in motion.
Not just that, like I'm a big fan of the new UI as well, because it looks so much cleaner. And like, for example, the 4 squares, instead of being separate, they're together in making a single shape, which makes it not only occupy less space in the screen, making things less cluttered, and at the same time it just looks cleaner, because I'm going to be totally honest here, the UI and HUD in the original game looked ugly. So I actually think the more cleaner presentation here just looks better for me.
We also know that they're also adding the obligatory photo mode, which, sure. And the one thing that they obviously improved, and we showed also in this video, was the optimized customization, differences, which are very welcome, since Demon's Souls was the first of its kind in that kind of way. The customization options were minimal there, so offering a much more variety in order to create your perfect character, your puppet to die over and over, is actually welcomed.
I also have to, and of course it goes also as to say that this game looks visually stunning. Much like Shadow of the Colossus was a technical showcase for the PS4, this already looks like a fantastic showcase for the PS5. So, and it doesn't even have ray tracing. Could you imagine if it seriously, and it still looks this gorgeous. So yeah.
I agree.
It looks. I'm definitely looking forward to getting. First, I'm gonna do Miles Morales first, since that game is shorter, probably. But well, not shorter as in like it will take me less time to complete it. Because with this game, of course, it's gonna take a bit of time to platinum it. So, all right.
What are your thoughts, Louise and Shiro?
It looks fine so far.
Well, I mean, yeah, it looks fine. I mean, I'm not exactly. I don't really play these kinds of games, but for those that are looking forward to it, I think they should have something to be excited about.
Cool. All right. So,
well, actually, I don't think Jova voiced it.
Jova, sorry, go on.
It looks like it'll be good. I'll admit, I never really... Okay, Demon's Souls was always a game I'd heard of, but never got into. Although it is nice that it's confirmed that yes, it is related to Dark Souls. I always wondered how the two were suspiciously similarly named.
They are. They're just simply setting complete different universes. Joe. They're not like stealth sequels to each other or something. That's also because of licensing. The first one is technically a Sony IP. It just had licensing problem because Shuei Yoshida back then really didn't like it for some reason and tried to make it possible that the West almost never got it. For the United States, it was actually published by Atlus of all people,
Wow.
and for Europe, actually Namco Bandai, which would have led to From Software partnering with them to create the Dark Souls trilogy later on. That's the reason why they met each other.
Atlus actually coming through on a localization job.
It's kind of poetic because they were kind of doing this stuff back then. Remember, they're the ones who published for the West Virtua Highlight.
Oh yes, that's right.
But no, now this is actually published full and first by Sony under the new PlayStation Studios label. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So see you eventually for the game, I guess.
See you then.
Yeah.
See ya.